Um, Thank you very much for having me here. The AI Expo conference in South Africa, and thank you to the organizers for this an opportunity. So my name is Degbedzui, and I am a data scientist working in Ghana. For the past 4 years, I've been having conferences all over the country, and to some extent, some African countries talking about the role of technology, especially in emerging ones, how fulfilling they are to the growth of our continent and how we can leverage on these technologies to progress. Fortunately for us in Africa, we've been able to have the African Union Continental Free Trade Agreement, which is headquartered in my country, Ghana, Accra to be specific. And this in itself possess some value that the entire continent can benefit from in the couple of years ahead of us. And so far as this is concerned, it is important that we match up to the role that responsibly can lead to the growth of the region. And this is why one of the key things to ensuring this is to grow the area of data literacy. And I think that this is an important decision for the entire continent to take so far as growing the market for the Continental Free Trade Agreement is concerned. And so my presentation is going to focus mainly on how we can ensure that we're able to have a win-win situation in the Continental Free Trade Agreement once we benchmark data literacy as an important element in the growth of this. So we have been privileged that a lot of the factors that are being emerging in this global trend, all focusing on the fact that Africa has all the resources and the capacity to emerge as the best continent to take up the world in the future. But there is so much optimism for that. And so the optimism comes from the fact that we are honing or growing a large population of young people. And this has a promise to ensure that we are able to have a consumption, very high consumption in the next 3 decades. And this is mostly happening because of how useful the use of devices such as mobile phone continue to emerge as the most popular or crucial to our growth. And so it is important that we find the best resources that are able to help us in making sure that we're able to grow in this area. And all of these reasons, it's with all of these optimism, there is still some sort of unfulfilled ones that we are not able to do. And most of the things that has really been worrying has been the fact that this continue to affect the economic growth of Africa. And if you look at countries such as Ghana, Egypt, Kenya, Ethiopia, South Africa, Rwanda, and even Nigeria, the growth of digital governance has become much more. But then we need to examine how we can leverage on all of this so that this digital technology can translate into something that has to do with national development and inclusive growth so that more jobs can be created. But in all of these, the function of all of this is that we should be able to have a framework that we can leverage on. And these levers were integrated into a framework we call the African Leapfrog Index. And the Africa Leapfrog Index evaluates each country against a continent-wide best performance benchmark by applying a process we have introduced earlier. So what we are expecting is that for Africa to have an ease in creating jobs, there is actually a high potential for high-skilled digital jobs. And so to what extent is the country ready to have high-skilled digital jobs, such as the online freelance workers? And what is even the potential for medium-skilled digital jobs? So to what extent is the countries ready for medium-skilled digital jobs, such as even ride-sharing services like we are seeing now? Then when it comes to potential for low-skilled jobs, and so to what extent is the country ready for low-skilled jobs, traditional jobs created by the digital sector, such as e-commerce, which creates work in delivery services or even warehousing and then logistics. In terms of governance and infrastructure resilience, we are looking at online freedom. So is governments allowing freedom for speech and exchange online? I think that for this one, we are much aware of the fact that company like Twitter has now decided to have its headquarters in Ghana. And this could all be the fact that there's so much avenue for people to have freedom to free speech. Then we're looking at the governance sector. So does the government also have effective digital service and regulations that are in place? Do we have the basic infrastructure? That the country has reliable basic infrastructure such as internet connectivity, a mobile network, as well as electricity supply? So in all of these, that is why we tend to establish the fact that there isn't so much that needs to be done, and it's so much that Africa, even though there's been a lot of potential, but there is still a lot that is lacking for us to do. And in terms of the foundational digital potential, so we are looking at the overall state of digital evolution today. What is the level of our country's or continent digital development as measured by our digital evolution index? In terms of digital momentum, how fast are we growing during the past decade? And when it comes to the ease of transferring money and doing transactions over the continent, mobile money is now playing a key role. But to what extent are countries shifting from resilience on cash to digital cash, including the mobile money? So in all of these, the key thing that we are measuring here is that what are we doing in terms of data literacy? And over the years, we have seen companies struggling to hire teams of data scientists, data engineers, and data analysts in the race to become data-driven. And studies have actually been shown that the return on these expensive hiring efforts have been lacking. So a lot of surveys continue to affirm to the fact that data literacy is, or data-driven decisions hiring are going up, but we are looking at, in terms of performance, how these things are happening and what we need to do. So in 2020, for example, new vintage partners observed that companies continue to focus on the supply side for data and technology instead of increasing demand for them by business executives and employees. And it is a new technology push rather than a pull from humans who wants to make more data-based decisions, develop more intelligent business processes, or even embed data and analytics into products and services. Now, the studies also goes on to state that about 90% of the respondents reported that the challenges to become data-driven are in people, process, and culture, but not technology itself. And so we need to perhaps understand that there could be only 15% that have deployed even AI broadly into production, not because that is where people and process issue come into play. And this is much more needed in our case because data literacy will help us to understand how we will be able to collect data, manage and even evaluate data, as well as in the application such that we can have a purposeful manner in which a data job can be given. So in a data literate Africa is where we expect business people and the functional employees to embrace and then use data in all that they do. And that even for the ordinary African, they can do their own critical thinking and analysis using data, and then able to make data-based decisions rather than experience or even intuition ones. We also expect that we should be able to use data to communicate ideas and then help to create new products, businesses or business models, workflow, and even strategies. And then we do understand that once a picture is worth more than 1,000 words, the understanding data visualization will help in echoing the real value for which we are deriving from our organizations. So an employee's ability to effectively use data relies on them possessing a set of skills that allow them to use data individually and then collaboratively to inform their roles and their responsibilities in the organization. And so as with type of any literacy, the degree to which employees are literate or fluent in data can and should vary according to their roles and responsibility, and the degree to which they need to use the language of data to communicate. And this is where it is important that in today's economy is based on data. Data that has been available in so many forms, in large volumes, in veracity, and even in veracity. And so the magnitude to which we understand and can use data, it's flooding now from nowadays. We don't therefore just think that anybody can just use data to an understanding of what they need to do. These skills are not easily taught or acquired on an ad hoc basis. If employees and managers are left to acquire data-related technical and then analytical skills on their own, the results and the impact will be consistent and ineffective. And that is why a census study found out that 75% of employees were uncomfortable working with data, and only 1/3 of employees have taken a sick day from work due to headaches with working with data. Then a lack of data literacy costs employers 5 days of productivity, translating to billions of dollars in lost productivity per employee each year. Then there has been so many surveys that point to the fact that without data literacy, a lot of organizations and every scope of activity that we want to do in the world now will lack the kind of results that we need. So today, 7 skills employees need to be data literate about is that 1, data concept and application. So how do you understand the data that we are even dealing with, and from what way can we apply them? How do we access data and then even the collection of it? And this is where a lot of the, regulations do come in, because we need to understand to what extent certain data can be available to us and what we can use them for. Who can have access to it, and how do we even manage and then synthesize the data? How do we ensure that there's data relevance in what we do? And how do you make sure that we are making a data-driven inquiry? What tools can we use to communicate the data that we have? And so it is important that learning and development program designers understand that the data literacy transcends any single business discipline and is still an emerging concept. As such, data literacy touches on a potentially broad scope of skills that entail varying levels of technological and then analytical expertise. So generally, employees should strive to acquire some of or all of these skills that we have outlined out there in order to be able to create value out of data and understand data science and analytics output. We need to be able to understand data concepts and application from the foundational understanding of the use and application of data. We should be able to understand the high-level issues and the challenges associated with data. And this way, we should be able to understand the importance of data and be familiar with the concepts such as data ethics and even literacy. In the collection of data, employees should be knowledgeable about which sources exist and what information is contained therein. And we should be able to assess the trustworthiness and the usefulness of data sources too. Therefore, it is important in the planning stage of your data literacy program to be careful, to carefully map up and address issues of data access and automation. In terms of management, we should be able to explore and make sense of multiple types of data given the context of the employee's role and business. So employees should become familiar with concepts and then techniques for pulling different data and their results and determining their impact as well. In terms of data relevance, a misunderstanding of which data to use in daily job is key barrier to employee data literacy, because the employee who misunderstands data feels overwhelmed when the results of their effort are not meaningful. And so it is important that employees should understand how different types of data are relevant to different problems and questions and be able to prioritize data for use. You should be able to understand the relationship among data from multiple sources. So in all of these also, the tools that are being used, because a lot of data tools are today available, but we should be able to understand what is useful in terms of what gives us the value that we want to derive from the data that we need. And so from today, we should be able to have a data roadmap or data literacy roadmap. And this is why I call on all African countries, including governments, to develop a roadmap that can be consistent in making sure that the trade agreement that we have here doesn't just end up becoming another wishful thinking scope of regulation or policy, but we should be able to have understood the fact that data literacy is key, and so therefore we need to have a proper roadmap in place such that every person who is involved in taking decisions that are purely important in the achievement of the goal of the market goal is well sustained. So we should be able to create a very good vision and then a roadmap. Every government, every company, every institution in Africa that wants to invest in data science and AI capabilities should have already undertaken the creation of a data vision and strategic data roadmap in place. Because in the process of doing so, data and then IT leaders will have put in place trusted data sources, data governance, and installed a data leader at the C level or the CC level. And this will help identify and then prioritize the areas of the business where data can derive value. And these steps are very critical prerequisite for creating a data literate organization, government, or even an institution, so that we can reduce the friction around understanding and then using data. We should be able to also develop a data literacy vision. So upper management support and vision for creating data literacy program is the key to creating a data-driven culture. How are the C-suite executives willing to collaborate with the HR or human resource development on its vision to develop a data literacy and define clearly what is important in talent management? Because a data literacy vision should entail desirable skills, the abilities, and the level of literacy required for different business units and then roles. Questions to include was, does management envision a beginner level of data language understanding for everyone? Do certain roles in operations or strategic planning require a comparative analysis level of understanding? And which role should we prioritize for data literacy upskilling? How data-driven does senior management wants the organization to be across various levels? So business, data, and HR leaders can then work to create a framework to achieve the data literacy goals, measure progress, and then maintain the data literacy that we need. And this could include deciding what skills is required, of whom, how to measure, and then even track skills development. To what degree decisions should be data-driven, and to what degree different parts of the organization should use in achieving their strategic goals and progress. We should be able to design a plan to achieve data literacy goals. You know, the fact that we have vision is not enough. We should have rolled out a data education program to the entire organization, to the entire government, to the entire decision makers in here, or start with a small pilot group of employees. And the decision will depend on the factors such as the size of the organizations, the industry focus, the budget, the resources, the culture, and the competitive position, as well as some other factors which can come to play. We should also be able to assess the workforce data skills. And so workforce are highly diverse. At the same time, modern employees expect the personalization of career and then skill development programs. And so therefore, when it comes to creating a data literacy program, it is important not to treat everyone the same. It is important that human resource need to find a way to assess team members from different functions and then business units for baseline data skills. And although a basic foundation is needed for most employees, the data skills needed must vary by role. This is where we should be able to work with business leaders to determine how to assess baseline data skills for each employee and for each person that is involved in doing this. We should be able to create an individual and then team data literacy learning and development plan. So according to CLIC, only 24% of business decision makers from junior level managers up to the C-suite feel confident in their ability to understand, work with, and then we communicate using data. It's also found that 34% of firms provide data literacy training programs. So HR is typically responsible for helping business managers identify and track an improvement and the development opportunities for employees. It's supposed to organize the timing and the mechanism for learning and development through which the requisite content is delivered. And it's no different when it comes to data literacy education. We need to also create data literacy delivery models. So the delivery of data literacy skills mostly or most likely will need to be executed at different grades or levels. Every time, from the beginner, introductory, all the way to self-service data science and analysis. And introductory or standardized courses might be needed to make sure everyone is on the same page in terms of basic data concepts, and then jargons, data access, data ethics, and awareness of potential uses. Be able to provide opportunities to practice and then reward data literacy skills. And as mentioned earlier, employees need appropriate access to data systems and tools to embrace and develop their data literacy. And so management should be able to provide opportunities for employees to use and experiment with data. We should be able to track, measure, rinse, and then repeat. And as mentioned before, employees' data literacy levels at the initial assessment will be varied and inconsistent. And so it is not enough to assess data literacy skills, put tools in front of employees and cross fingers that they will become data-driven in their actions. We should be able to reassess employees periodically to determine individual areas of development and need to provide a feedback mechanism for the data literacy program. This all takes time. So business leaders must allow their employees to invest the time required to become data literate and improve on their skills. So in all of these, what does all of this mean for hiring, onboarding, and learning and development, especially in the key phase of the Continental Free Trade Agreement? And if no one outside the data science and analytics team understands what is being said and why it won't matter if data and analytics offer immense business value. Now, extracting insight and then value from data to solve business problems and identify opportunities can no longer be the sole realm of the data science and analytics team. Data science is as much a people issue as a technical one. Understanding the data and what it can offer now is an essential skill that all current and future employees need to operate productively in the new data economy. And so therefore, recruitment and hiring should therefore be the first step to start creating the organizational shift towards data literacy. In the hiring process, we expect that hiring and HR managers should set expectations with candidates that they should be using data in their roles and while interacting throughout their or the organization. So new hire onboarding should thus incorporate some basic data related training according to departmental needs and showcase future learning opportunities. By this way, we do expect that we can become data literate in some time. We all need to be data literate. But like I mentioned before, in the phase of the Continental Free Trade Agreement, everybody needs to become a data citizen. We should be able to make better decisions and have more informed opinions because of the 10 essential data literacy skills that we talk about. We need to understand what data is and how it is measured. This is an important skill that everybody is supposed to have. This skill is a foundational understanding of what data is and how it is described and what it can describe. If we equate data literacy to language literacy, this skills is like learning to say and understand basic necessary words in a language before stringing grammatical correctly complex sentence together. How would these skills help a data citizen in the real world? One way is by interpreting data types. And so your ability to understand what these various data types are is even a way for you to become or make a better decision or when you are collecting even data. Understanding how to identify data sources in work and everyday life. And so now that we understand what data is, we can identify where it comes from. Data can be open source, something you have access to like company database, but it can be generated through your work. And this data literacy skills is crucial to understanding how we are knowingly and unknowingly generating data that directly impact our lives. So data that we can talk about ourselves. Personal, we have sensitive behavioral and societal information that we are all using every day. And so it makes you feel a bit squirmy But we humans are sources of data. Where we live, what we do, and our demographics are just a few pieces of data that get attributed to us. Data stewardship is more advanced data skills as it relates to corporate data. But as individuals, we should be aware of the data we create and then take a stewardship approach to that personal information. After understanding the source of data, we should be able to interpret data visualization. So everyone should be able to read charts. A critical skill to interpret the charts or the data in our everyday lives is to know how to interpret data visualization and understand if they are deceiving. A good chart is communicating multiple pieces of information at a time. And a data citizen is able to glean the full story of a data visualization, not just certain points. For example, you might think a scatter plot is just a data visualization, but this helpful guide from our friends at Jews Analytics shows that there are more layers that you might think. We should be able to determine the common data applications. As an individual builds their understanding of data, the next skill is to explore different use cases for data. A data citizen, a good one, begins to recognize data application across different industries and job functions. And this is a key data literacy skill because it brings some of the definitions and the categorization of data down to earth with real world implications. Now, I should be able to identify and then promote the ethical treatment of my data and use. A data citizen understands the ethical implication of gathering, using, sharing, and managing data. A good data citizen should be able to understand how to create value with data. All of the data generated doesn't mean anything unless we turn it into actionable insight that create value. And a data citizen realizes the potential for data even if they can't achieve it without help. So with understanding that data is an asset, a data citizen can ask informed questions about the data. And this essential skills is about the ability to zoom out and see the bigger picture. It is the intersection where data awareness and understanding meets critical thinking. We should be able to interpret and then evaluate common metrics and statistics that people, companies use to support their argument. And this skill goes one step deeper on the idea of data literacy as language literacy. We should also be able to evaluate the data quality. Data citizens are crucial of the data used in their decisions. They understand not all data is created equal and have a good grasp on the data quality dimension impacting a particular data set. They have the ability to identify and then analyze the timelines, validity, consistency, completeness, accuracy, and then the uniqueness of data. They are able to make data-driven decisions. So at the data citizen level of data literacy, making data-driven decisions is the ultimate goal. Equipped with the language of data, an understanding of types of data, and how to think about data, data citizens can use their data literacy skills to make better decisions. A good data citizen has the tools and the framework to look at statistics, data sets, and more with a critical eye. And a key component of thinking critically about data is having the ability to evaluate that this data has unbiasedness in it. Data literacy skills are not just skills of how to do something, but also how to think about something. This is an important piece of the data citizens learning journey. And so we must make sure that learners understand biases in such a way, such as cognitive bias, analytical bias, AI bias, and many more. These skills is the final step in our list of 10 essential data literacy skills. It is because it is a combination of all the previous skills, and they are very crucial to make an individual become data worthy. Data skills are not optional in 2021 and beyond. Becoming data literate and unlocking the capabilities of data citizen is not only about professional performance. Data is everywhere. And so these skills are essentially the ones that can help us in making decisions about data that can affect and help us in making sure that we achieve all the goals that we have set for the Continental Trade Agreement. I'll be in the booth and be waiting for you even as the conference goes on. This has been an opportunity for me to share with you the insight that we need to understand about data literacy and how it is important that every organization pay attention to, especially because we have the Continental Free Trade Agreement with us. The value it promised to create for us is enormous. And therefore, whether you are a startup, whether you are a big organization, whether you are a unicorn, and whatever stage of business that you find yourself, you are in school, and it's an institution, an educational institution, or a student, it's important that now we grasp the concept of data literacy skills, because these are very essential in making sure that we are able to contribute meaningfully to the growth of our continent. It is a pleasure always to share with you. And so therefore, you can always find us while we discuss your data literacy agenda. Whatever framework you want to develop, whatever roadmap you may want to develop for data literacy, always count on us and we'll be willing to deliver it for you. Thank you very much. My name is Degbedzui. Have a great day.